In a forgotten land, far away from the rest of the world, there was a secret. Deep within mist-covered mountains, an ancient power had been resting for centuries. A small ember, barely alive, held the kind of magic that could either save the world, or destroy it. It had been waiting, hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right person to come and awaken it. These mountains were mysterious and dangerous, and few ever ventured here. The thick fog covered the land, hiding secrets no one had dared to uncover. But on one stormy night, a young wanderer named Arden found himself lost, soaked to the skin and desperate for shelter. As the storm raged outside, he stumbled into a dark cave, hoping to escape the wind and rain. The cave was silent except for the sound of Arden's footsteps echoing against the stone. As he moved deeper into the darkness, he noticed something unusual, a soft, glowing light coming from the center of the cave. It wasn't bright, but it was warm, almost like it was calling him. Arden approached it carefully. On a stone pedestal in the center of the cave, a tiny ember flickered, glowing faintly. He reached out to touch it, and the moment his fingers made contact, everything changed. A rush of visions filled his mind, ancient battles, forgotten heroes, and powerful magic, flashes of a world he didn't recognize but felt connected to. As the images swirled in his mind, a voice echoed in the cave, deep and ancient. It wasn't just in his ears, it seemed to come from the very air itself. "You are the chosen one, Arden," the voice said. "The darkness is rising, and only the ember can stop it. But beware, the power it holds can either save you or destroy you." Arden felt a wave of fear and wonder rush over him. What did this mean? Who was he, really? And why was he the one chosen for this? Before Arden could fully understand what had just happened, he felt a presence watching him. A shadow moved at the entrance of the cave, and from the darkness emerged a figure. A sorcerer. His name was Malrak, and he was not just any ordinary dark wizard. Malrak's eyes burned with a red, fiery glow, and his presence filled the air with a chilling cold. He had been searching for the ember for years, and now, it seemed he had finally found it. Malrak stepped forward, his hands crackling with dark energy, making the very air feel heavy. Arden stood frozen for a moment, unsure of what to do, but he instinctively held the ember close, feeling its warmth in his hands. Malrak smirked, his dark magic swirling around him. "The ember belongs to me," he growled. "And now, I will take it." Arden knew that the battle had already begun, and the fate of the world rested in his hands. As the battle erupted in the cave, the ground trembled with each wave of Malrak's dark energy. The walls cracked, and huge rocks began falling from above. Shadowy creatures began to rise from the earth, their eyes glowing red as they surrounded Arden, snarling and hissing. Arden fought back, but he was overwhelmed. The ember's power surged through him, but it was still too much. He was only one person, and the darkness was too great. Just when all hope seemed lost, a shining figure appeared from the shadows. A warrior. Her name was Lyra, and she was strong, skilled, and determined. She didn't hesitate for a second. With a glowing sword in her hand, she charged into the fray, slicing through the shadow creatures with ease. "The Ember has chosen you," she said, her voice calm and confident. "But we must work together if we're going to stop him." Together, they fought side by side, pushing back the dark forces that Malrak had summoned. Arden and Lyra fought with all their might, each blow they struck sending shadow creatures crumbling to dust. But Malrak wasn't finished. With a wicked laugh, he raised his hands high, and from the depths of the cave, a giant shadow beast emerged. It was huge, its claws sharp like knives, its eyes glowing with evil intent. The beast roared, sending shockwaves through the cave. It was unlike anything they had ever faced before. This creature wasn't just a mindless monster. It was smart, born from Malrak's twisted magic. Arden and Lyra fought hard, but the beast was far too strong. It towered over them, its claws scraping the stone, ready to strike. The two of them were struggling to stay on their feet, but it seemed impossible to defeat this creature. They needed a new plan, fast. Then, in a moment of clarity, Arden understood. The Ember wasn't just a weapon, it was a key. It held the power to unlock something greater. Arden focused all his energy on the Ember, feeling its magic flow through him. In an instant, he vanished into the shadows. He reappeared behind the giant beast and, with one swift strike, drove his sword deep into its heart. The creature let out a final, terrible roar before crumbling into nothingness. As the beast vanished into smoke, Malrak's control over the shadows weakened. The cave, once filled with fear and darkness, began to calm. But Malrak was far from finished. He charged at Arden, fury in his eyes, ready to destroy him and claim the Ember's power for himself. But Lyra stepped forward, her sword raised to block his path. Lyra's sword met Malrak's dark magic with a brilliant clash. Sparks flew, and the air crackled with power. Arden stood behind her, the Ember glowing brightly in his hand, ready for the final strike. Malrak's dark energy pushed against Lyra's sword, but she held firm. Arden knew this was the moment he had been waiting for. Drawing on every bit of power the Ember had given him, Arden charged toward Malrak. His sword shone with the full force of the Ember's light. Malrak's dark magic tried to hold him back, but the light from the Ember was too powerful. In a flash, Arden's sword cut through Malrak's defenses, and with a scream of rage, Malrak was consumed by the light, his dark magic shattering into nothing. The battle was over. The cave, once filled with darkness, was now quiet, its walls glowing softly with the Ember's light. Outside, the storm had passed, and the sun began to rise. The land, once shrouded in shadow, slowly began to change. Arden and Lyra stood together on a hill, watching as the world came back to life. The Ember, now safe, glowed gently in Arden's hand, a symbol of hope for a new beginning. The darkness had been defeated. The world was at peace, but Arden and Lyra knew their journey was far from over. The Ember's power would continue to protect the land, its light always shining, guiding those who needed it most. And though their mission had ended, their bond would last forever, a reminder of the hope they had restored to the world. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Arden and Lyra walked into the future, side by side. The Ember's light would live on in their hearts, a symbol of hope that even in the darkest times, there would always be a way to find the light.